Warlock's abilities. Passive. Until this character completes a turn, enemies cannot gain offense up, and this character and new mutant allies cannot gain stun, defense down, or exposed. In Crucible, if this character has 3 new mutant allies, on spawn, after all other characters on spawn effects transfer all speed up, defense up, and offense up from all enemies to self, then spread speed up, defense up, and offense up on self to all new mutant allies. On self or new mutant ally turn, flip 1 negative effect to defense up and flip all remaining negative effects to deflect. Enemies can only gain bonus speed through positive effects. The speed of this character and each ally can only be reduced by slow. Ultimate. Reduce the duration of all negative effects on self and new mutant allies by 2. Attack all enemies for 380% damage and apply silence for 2 turns and trauma for 2 turns. In Crucible, this attack gains 50% piercing. In Crucible, if this character has 3 new mutant allies, flip vulnerable, charged, and revive once to ability block on all enemies. Flip vulnerable, exposed, and darkness to immunity on self and all new mutant allies. Clear all battlefield effects on the allied side. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. Special. If Warlock does not have trauma, transfer all negative effects from new mutant allies to self. Flip all negative effects on self to positive effects. Attack all enemies for 360% damage and apply silence for 2 turns. Clear all battlefield effects on the allied side. Enemies killed by this attack cannot be revived. This attack is unavoidable. Basic. Attack primary target for 300% damage and flips 3 random positive effects. Apply stealth to all new mutant allies with 50% or less health. Wolfsbane abilities. Passive. When an enemy gains stealth, apply speed up to self and all new mutant allies. On self or new mutant ally crit, apply 1 bleed to all enemies with bleed up to a maximum of 10. In Crucible, if this character has 3 or more new mutant allies, when an enemy gains bleed, fill speed bar by unknown %age. Enemies cannot assist. Speed bar cannot be filled or reduced by any enemy for themselves, allies, or enemies. In Crucible, this character and all new mutant allies gain crit chance against enemies with blind or silence. Ultimate. Attack primary target for 450% piercing and apply disrupted for 2 turns and heal block for 2 turns and reduce speed bar by 30%. Bonus attack the most injured enemy for 225% piercing. On kill, generate 3 special ability energy for self. Gain offense up for 2 turns and speed up for 2 turns. Enemies killed by this attack cannot be revived. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. Special. Apply 2 counter to self and all new mutant allies. Attack all enemies for 250% piercing and apply 2 bleed and heal block for 2 turns. If any target has stealth, apply an additional 2 bleed to that target plus clear stealth. Bonus attack the enemy support with the highest damage for 125% piercing and prolong the duration of all negative effects, except ability, blocks, use stun and trauma by 1 up to a maximum of 3. In Crucible, if this character has 3 new mutant allies, reduce the duration of all positive effects except stealth by 2 on all enemies. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. Basic. Attack primary target for 230% piercing and flip all regeneration. Prolong the duration of all negative effects, except ability block, stun, and trauma by 1 up to a maximum of 3. If primary target has bleed, this attack gains 50% crit chance. Canonball's abilities. Passive. On spawn, gain deflect and taunt for turns. On self or new mutant ally crit, gain deflect. When this character or a new mutant ally drops below 50% health, apply Deflect and Safeguard for turns to self and all new mutant allies. In Crucible, if this character has 3 new mutant allies. On self or new mutant ally turn, if this character's health is above 50%, gain Taunt. Enemies with Blind or Silence cannot generate barrier for themselves or their allies. Support, Protector, and Villain Controller enemies cannot spawn with immunity. If this character or any new mutant ally does not have Defense Up or Minor Defense Up, that character gains plus 25% damage reduction and plus 25% resistance. For each deflect on this character, gain crit chance and armor bonus. Ultimate. Apply stun to primary target. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 400% damage and clears 2 random positive effects. For each deflect on this character, this attack gains 25% additional damage. Apply 1 offense down, up to a maximum of 3 to primary and adjacent targets. Apply 1 slow up to a maximum of 3 to primary and adjacent targets. Gain 5 deflect. Enemies killed by this attack cannot be revived. Special. Clear barrier on all enemies. Attack all enemies for 375% damage. Clears 2 random positive effects and apply offense down for 2 turns. In Crucible, if this character has 3 new mutant allies, apply Blind and Trauma to all enemies. Apply Ability Block to Mythic Protector enemies. Apply Stun to non-Mythic Protector enemies. Apply Immunity to Self and all new mutant allies. Gain 3 deflect, up to a maximum of 5. In Crucible, this attack gains plus 300% extra focus. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. Basic. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 300% damage. Applies offense down for 2 turns and slow for 2 turns. Gain 1 deflect up to a maximum of 3. Magik's abilities. Passive. On spawn, bury yourself and all X-Men allies for 30% of this character's max health. When an enemy attacks an X-Men ally, gain 2 charged up to a maximum of 20. If that ally is Colossus or Kitty Pryde, gain 3 charged up to a maximum of 20 instead. At the end of any turn, if this character has 20 or more charged, attack the enemy with the highest damage for 500% damage, then lose all charged. On crit by self or a new mutant ally, clear heal block from the most injured new mutant ally. Heals that character for 5% of this character's max health. The first time this character or a new mutant ally drops below 40% health, heal that ally for 30% of this character's max health plus reduce the duration of disrupted by 2 on that character. Apply 2 deathproof and 2 evade. If that character drops below 40% health again, heal that character for 15%. Apply 1 deathproof and 1 evade instead. Gain plus 20% drain. X-Men allies gain plus 20% drain. Ultimate. Heal the most injured new mutant ally for 10% of this character's max health. Clears 3 random negative effects. Bury yourself and all X-Men allies for 20% of this character's max health. Clear disrupted and ability block from self and all X-Men allies. Attack primary target for 450% damage, AMD 25% drain. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked. Heal self and all new mutant allies for 30% of this character's max health. Attack all enemies for 300% piercing. Flips immunity and regeneration. Reduce the speed bar of primary target by 30%. Apply plus 10 charged up to a maximum of 20 to self and all chargeable uncanny X-Men allies. This attack cannot be counterattacked. Basic. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 230% piercing and clear 2 random positive effects. Sunspot's abilities. Passive. Spawn. Apply offense up to self and all X-Men allies. For every charged on this character, generate 1 ability energy for self and each X-Men ally up to a maximum of 10. In raids, apply offense down for 2 turns to all enemies. On turn, heal self for 3% of this character's max health per charged on this character, up to a maximum of 30%. For each charged on this character, gain plus 5% damage. If this character has 5 or more charged, this character and all X-Men allies gain an additional plus 25% damage. In raids, if this character has 3 or more X-Men allies, enemies cannot gain taunt. Gain an additional plus 25% damage. X-Men allies gain an additional plus 25% damage. In Crucible, if this character has 3 or more new mutant allies, enemies cannot gain taunt. Ultimate. For each enemy with charged, gain 1 charged up to a maximum of 10. Attack while enemies for 600% damage plus apply offense down for 2 turns and defense down for 2 turns. In raids and Crucible, apply disrupted to all enemies. Clear 1 charged on each target. Generate 1 ability energy for self and all X-Men allies. In raids, generate an additional 1 ability energy for self and all X-Men allies. Special. Apply ability block to primary target. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 420% damage. Apply slow and heal block. Prolonged duration of all negative effects, excluding ability block, stun, and trauma on each target by 2 up to a maximum of 3. In raids, prolonged duration of all negative effects on each target by an additional 1 up to a maximum of 3. Generate 1 ability energy for self and all X-Men allies. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked or counterattacked. Basic. Attack primary and adjacent targets for 300% damage and applies bleed. Apply 1 bleed to primary target per crit. Gain 1 charged up to a maximum of 10.
If you have liked my video, then please hit the like and subscribe button.